All right, listeners, buckle up, because today's deep dive, well, it's a little different. We're not dissecting some dense research paper or, hot off the press news. Now, today, we're jumping right into the world of fiction.
Oh, exciting. I bet some of our listeners are thinking, fiction, what's that going to teach me?
Right, like what's the point? But stick with us, folks, because even fictional worlds can give us, well, amazing insights into history, different societies, and even I don't know, ourselves maybe.
It's true. Fictional worlds, even though they're made up, they can reflect the real world in a really powerful way, like they're holding up a mirror.
A mirror to the past.
Oh,
And the time machine we're hopping into today, 1868 Russia. We're diving into this novel, Virgin Soil by Ivan Turgenev. Russia back then, total chaos, social and political upheaval, like whispers of revolution everywhere.
oh yeah, the 1860s in Russia, it was like a pressure cooker about to explode. Think about it. In 1861, they emancipated the serfs. Basically, millions of people, they were like peasant laborers tied to the land. Suddenly, they're free.
Huge change. Must thrown everything into chaos. So where does our story begin in all of this?
We start in this, well, kind of dingy St. Petersburg apartment where we meet these three revolutionaries, Thekla Mashurin, Pimen Ostrodumov, and Sila Paklin.
Revolutionaries, huh? So what are they like? Give us the rundown. Are they super intense?
Well, not exactly the polished revolutionaries you might picture. More chain-smoking, messy hair, more like grit than glamour. But
No.
that's Turgenev for you. He was a master at describing characters.
Oh, I love that. Like every detail, even their clothes or how they look, tells us something about them.
Exactly. Like Thekla, she has this harsh feminine voice. That's how he describes her. But there's also this tenderness there, especially towards the main character, Alexei Nezhdanov.
Okay, and who is this Nezhdanov guy?
He's a fascinating character, full of contradictions. He's handsome, brooding, clearly uncomfortable with, well, himself. But it's his background that makes him even more interesting.
Lay it on us.
So he's the illegitimate son of an aristocrat. Can you imagine the scandal? And get this, he was forced into a fancy education, studied aesthetics against his will.
So he's got this privileged background, but hangs out with these, hardcore revolutionaries.
Yeah, and he's torn between these two worlds. He hates his aristocratic roots, but can't help but enjoy things like poetry and beauty. Like he's fighting a part of himself.
Wow, that's so symbolic of what was happening in Russia then.
Totally. And you can see it in how he acts. He writes poetry secretly, like it's some shameful secret. But what really gets to him is the state of Russia. The poverty, the censorship, the arrests.
It's all getting to him. And then his friend, Bazanov, gets arrested. Talk about hitting close to home.
Yeah, it's a constant reminder of the danger they're all in. And speaking of danger, things get even more intense when Privy Councillor Sipiagin enters the scene.
Okay, who is this Sipiagin character? Why is he a big deal?
Okay, picture this. You're in this dingy apartment talking about revolution, and suddenly this perfectly dressed, super confident aristocrat walks in. That's Sipiagin. Just oozes upper-class charm and power.
I bet everyone's jaws hit the floor.
Absolutely. Thekla and Ostrodumov, they bolt out of there. And the way Turgenev describes Sipiagin, all those details about his clothes and his confidence, it's like he's everything Nezhdanov both hates and, well, maybe a little bit envies.
I gotta be super awkward. So how do Nezhdanov and the Sipiagin even know each other?
Pure chance. They met, of all places, at the theater, both watching a play by Ostrovsky. Shoemaker, stick to your last.
Or our listeners who don't know Ostrovsky, he was this famous Russian playwright, known for making fun of the rich and powerful. So you've got Nezhdanov, the brooding revolutionary, surrounded by these fancy theater goers feeling totally out of place.
And then Sipiagin does something totally unexpected. He starts talking to Nezhdanov, and he seems, well, genuinely interested in what he has to say, even if it's about revolution.
Okay, so what's Sipiagin's game?
Turns out, he's looking for a tutor for his son. And remember, that ad Nezhdanov placed, Sipiagin saw it and decides to make him an offer.
Wait, so this powerful, connected aristocrat wants the brooding revolutionary to teach his kids. That's a recipe for some interesting conversations.
Right, and the way Sipiagin frames it is so interesting. He presents himself as a liberal, praises Nezhdanov's passion, even when Nezhdanov's like, I don't have any references. Sipiagin's all, don't worry, I trust my own judgment.
Yeah, but it makes you wonder, is he being sincere?
Yeah.
Or is he trying to control Nezhdanov?
Exactly. And that feeling gets stronger when Sipiagin reveals how he knows who Nezhdanov really is. Remember Prince G, the imperial adjutant? He's Nezhdanov's half-brother. Sipiagin got the info from him.
Wow, that's cold. No wonder Nezhdanov's so shaken. But before we get to his reaction, Let's talk about Sila Paklan, the cynical one of the group.
Ah, Paklan. Always got a witty comment, even in serious situations. Like a little comic relief, which is so necessary in a story like this.
For sure. So how does he react to all of this?
Well, once Sipyajan leaves, Paklan comes bursting back in. He's practically ecstatic about Nezhdanov's catch, as he calls it.
You mean the tutoring gig?
Yeah. And he's got this whole theory that revolutionaries need to understand their enemies, infiltrate their circles, you know?
It's like he's giving Nezdov a crash course in espionage.
Right. And then he gives him this advice, tells him to study the lionesses of high society, learn their secrets, their weaknesses.
Lionesses. Is that literal or is it like a metaphor?
That's the million-dollar question. Is he talking about real women or something else, like the power dynamics of high society? We'll have to see how it plays out.
So where do we leave everyone at the end of this first part?
Nezhdanov's alone with this huge decision to make. He's not exactly jumping for joy about leaving St. Petersburg, and the whole tutoring thing is, well, a bit of a gamble. He's thinking about using Sipyajan's advance payment to pay off his debts and maybe help the cause.
But there's something else he's struggling with.
Exactly. Remember his secret poetry writing? Well, it comes back with a vengeance. And guess who catches him in the act? Sekla.
Oh, that's got to be awkward.
She tells him they have to leave St. Petersburg that night, which just makes Nezhdanov even more irritated. He can't get the money till the next day.
So he's at a crossroads. Does he stick to the revolution or take this new path that might, I don't know, lead him right into the heart of the world he hates?
We'll have to wait for part 2 to find out, but I can tell you this. Things are about to get very interesting. You know, what's really fascinating about Nezhdanov, he's like this walking contradiction between like what he believes and the reality he finds himself in. Drawn to the revolution, but tempted by, well, the easy life Sipyajan represents.
Yeah, like walking a tightrope, trying to balance it all. But speaking of different lives, let's switch gears for a sec. Over to the Sipyajan estate. Totally different vibe, right?
Oh, yeah. The Sipyajan estate is like a whole other world. Big gardens, fancy rooms, and you can just feel the tension simmering beneath the surface. This is where we meet Valentina Mikhailovna, Sipyajan's wife.
Okay, tell me about her. What's she like?
Well, Turgenev describes her as this elegant beauty with these velvety eyes, like the perfect picture of an aristocratic wife. But even from the start, there are hints that there's more to her than meets the eye.
I love that. Hidden depths. What kind of hints are we talking about?
There's a scene where she refuses to give her niece, Mariana, these lilies of the valley. Seems like a small thing, but it tells you a lot about her. Like she's maybe a little cold, very controlled.
Interesting. And who's Mariana? Where does she fit into all of this?
So Mariana is Valentina Mikhailovna's niece, and she's like the complete opposite of her aunt. Valentina's all about tradition, the role of a wealthy wife. But Mariana, she's got this independent spirit, short hair, questions everything, a bit of a rebel.
Oh, I can see the sparks flying already, like fire and ice.
Totally. And then, get this, there's a parrot on the estate, and it loves Mariana, but it can't stand Valentina Mikhailovna. Won't even take sugar from her.
Wait, a parrot? What's that all about?
It's brilliant, right? Turgenev uses the parrot to symbolize all the conflict and tension hidden under this, like, perfect surface. Even the animals can sense it.
Okay, so we've got the elegant but distant wife, the rebellious niece, and a parrot who plays favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else happening at the Sipyagan estate?
Well, while Valentina Mikhailovna is waiting for her husband, another important character shows up. Semyon Petrovich Kalamyetsev.
Whoa, that's a mouthful. Say that again?
Kalamyetsev. He's this young, fashionable aristocrat from Petersburg. Comes to the estate on business.
Okay, what's his deal?
Kalamyetsev represents the more conservative, even reactionary side of Russian society. Big supporter of the Tsar, hates anything that even smells like liberalism, let alone revolution.
So basically the polar opposite of Nezhdanov.
Exactly. And his personality. Just as rigid as his politics, he's a bit of a snob, always name-dropping. Like, he brags about his fancy watch, says it proves he's friends with some Serbian prince.
Ugh, classic name dropper.
Yeah.
So why is he at the Sipyagan estate?
Officially, it's business with Sipyajan, but what's really interesting is how he talks about Russian literature. Complains it's overrun by plebeians. Even cooks are heroines in novels now.
Sounds like a total literary snob. Like, only the rich and powerful deserve to be in stories.
Totally. And then he says his friend Ladislas is writing a romance of high life to, you know, put those pesky nihilists in their place.
Hold on, can we back up for a sec? What's nihilism again? I've heard it mentioned, but I'm not sure I get it.
Oh, good point. Nihilism was this like philosophical movement in Russia back then. It wasn't just about rejecting authority, it was about questioning everything. Morality, purpose, even the meaning of life.
Like extreme skepticism, right?
Yeah. And Kelmaitsev. He sees art as a way to like fight back against those nihilists, the ones who challenge the status quo.
Got it. So he's using art as a weapon. And right at this moment when he's ranting about literature, guess who walks in? Mariana, the free-thinking niece.
The timing couldn't be better, right? And Kelmaitsev, he is not pleased, especially when he finds out she likes that rebellious parrot.
Huh. Even the parrot is a symbol of rebellion in this story. Turgenev is telling us revolution can be anywhere, even in a bird.
Exactly. But just as things are heating up at the estate, we're pulled back to Nezdanov. He's in Moscow, traveling with Sipiagin, no less.
Whoa, talk about a change of scenery. One minute we're with a parrot choosing sides, the next we're back with our brooding revolutionary. So how's Nezdanov handling this sudden plunge into luxury?
Remember all that inner conflict? It's about to get 10 times worse. He's surrounded by wealth, by people who represent everything he says he hates, like a ticking time bomb.
This is getting good. What happens next? All right, so last time we left Nezdanov on his way to the Sipiagin estate, basically walking right into, I don't know, the lion's den. But before we get to all that drama, can we go back to that mysterious letter from Moscow for a sec? The one Ostrodimov, like, dramatically burned.
Oh yeah, that letter. Total Chekhov's gun, right? You just know it's going to come back into play. And it does. Turns out it had all these instructions for the revolutionaries, telling them to relocate, keep their work going somewhere else.
So they're going mobile. Smart move with all those arrests happening.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, what's their big plan? What are they risking everything for?
Those are the questions that will drive the whole story, and they're the same questions a lot of young people in Russia were wrestling with back then. They wanted social justice, equality, a better future. But how to get there, that was the dangerous part.
And then there's the money issue. They need funds, right? And Nezdanov's their best bet? But remember, he's got his own issues. He wants to help, but Sipiagin's money is, well, tempting.
It's the classic dilemma, isn't it? Do you stick to your ideals even if it means struggle and sacrifice? Or do you take the easy road even if it means compromising what you believe in? And for Nezdanov, it's even more complicated because of his background.
Exactly. He's trying so hard to, like, shed his aristocratic past. But it keeps coming back. Potvin teases him about being an aristocrat, and Sipiagin's all, I know about your family thanks to Prince G. It's like his past is haunting him.
And that's something that, speaks to all of us, don't you think? Can we ever really escape our past, or will it always shape us, no matter how hard we try to deny it?
Deep thoughts for a Friday. So Nezdanov's on his way to the Sipiagin estate. He's got the revolution on his mind, his past weighing him down, and this whole new world, full of unknowns, opening up in front of him.
It's like imagine a tightrope walker in a hurricane. Can he keep his balance, or will he get swept away?
That's the big question. Will he find his place in this new world? Will he stay true to the revolution? Or will the comfort and privilege, will it, I don't know, change him? And what about his relationships with Sekla, Ostrodumov, the Sipiagins, Mariana? How will all that play out?
We've just dipped our toes into this incredible story. There's so much more to uncover. The power dynamics, the clash between old and new, the search for identity in a world that's changing so fast.
Turgenev really created something special with Virgin Soil. It's a story about the human heart, the choices we make, the challenges we face when the world around us is, transforming.
And as we leave Nezdanov at the Sipiagin estate, we hope you'll keep exploring the story with us. Who knows what we'll discover together?
Until next time, folks, happy reading and keep those minds engaged.